Hey everybody, sorry it's taking so long. We're doing the Twitch thing. We're moving into Twitch, so I got to start up the show and I got to be like the old car. You know, churn the butter. Or as they say, churn that milk till it turns to butter. So, welcome to True House Stories. I'm Lenny Fontana coming out of Nueva York, New York City. And you know, each and every week I always scour for the best of the game. And you know, back in Christmas time, I was asked to bring on certain people that we revere as legends, innovators, people that lead the game. Well, this man who I'm bringing up, I will have to say this, definitely led the game. He happened to fall into the right time, and I wish I could have been around him at that time, as many guys my age were wishing, because we were the kids, like watching him, people that were DJing at different nightclubs, and they were talking about all the great things they were doing. But this guy was telling us on the radio, a number one station in the nation, okay, that became the blueprint for what came after in dance music, disco. So imagine this. The program director, Michael Ellis, goes to Studio 54 and he calls it like finding God. And we'll say it like that. He then goes to work the following day, takes a Latin station that was pretty good in its market. All right. And he tells the kid from the mailroom, go down to the Wiz, which is a record shop, sold equipment, and buy me every disco record there is. Okay? The kid comes back, brings him tons of disco records. They immediately changed from 1 second Latin music to the following day. You start hearing disco music. Now, pre to that, you had stations like WPIX, and the guy from Crazy Eddie used to have a show on there, and they would be mixing contemporary music and playing disco. But there was no real disco station until this station came on the air. WKTU Disco 92. Okay? And some air personalities that came out from it. This man I'm bringing up right now, I like to introduce affectionately one of the greatest DJ air personality people I know, Mr. Joe Causi.
Wow. What an intro.
Joe,
You're making me blush.
Joe Causi. No, it's the truth, Joe. So Disco 92 becomes the number one station nation. He becomes the morning man, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay? And after that, the rest is history. If I'm correct, right?
Yeah, it was a magical time, KTU. But that wasn't my first
You're gonna tell us
station. Yeah. I mean, I did mornings back then. And when I got to tell you, when we worked on KTU, we didn't have what we have today at stations. It was very less technical than it is today. There was no such thing as MP3s.
What MP3s?
There was no CDs or none of that stuff. We had 2 turntables, 2 reel-to-reel, 4 commercial 4-track decks to play commercials, and that was it. We had an 8-pop board, and we winged it. All our live reads were live, and they wanted us to have a feeling, get that New York feel, and that's what was so special about KTU back then, because everyone that was on the air was from New York City. We had Roscoe from Manhattan. We had Paco from New Jersey. I was from Brooklyn. Johnny Allen was from Queens. Paul Zarcone, J.D. Holiday was from Long Island. Bandero was from Brooklyn with me. So many people were a part of this station.
Let me show you a picture. Look at the crew.
Ooh, look at that. I needed a haircut back then in a big way.
Paco, Roscoe, G. Keith Alexander, Carlos Jesus. You in the back, of course, is you're like a basketball player. You're taller than ever.
Yeah.
Is that Broadway Bill Lee?
No, that's Dale Reeves.
Oh, Dale Reeves. Okay,
Dale Reeves, yeah. That was a great time. I mean, such great players there. Roscoe, cream of the crop, class act.
In fact,
class act.
When I went to Ohio to that the music museum, Roscoe's in there as an air personality. They gave him that as a number one. Frankie Crocker, of course.
Yeah.
greats. Roscoe's right up there with him.
Yeah, I mean, well, Roscoe covered really every genre of music while he was in radio. I mean, he was in rock, he was in disco, he did everything, top 40, but he had that certain style. He was very cool on the air. And if you remember what he said when he leave, like he had that whole Frankie Rocker, I love you so, and they would sign off with that.
Roscoe recites Desiderata.
Yeah, it was a great time.
Yes.
Great time. Yep. This is cool. I like doing this. This is nice.
This is us being affectionate to you guys. And thank God I was able to get all of you one by one, because nobody really gets a chance to hear these inside stories. So I'm going to get to one question everybody knows I ask, and then I'll let you take it from there, because
Okay.
you're gonna paint the picture like the Picasso you were meant to be.
Yeah.
Okay, so Joe, I ask you the same way. How does music find you as a young kid? The little Cousine from
Yeah.
Brooklyn. You're from Bensonhurst, right? Am I
Yeah,
right?
that's nice. Yeah, right near Coney Island. Yeah.
Okay, so how does that music find you? What was,
Mhm.
what's that driving force to make you become the Joe Causi we all know? But there's
Well,
got to be that dream that happens, that
I
dream sequence.
I always loved music ever since I was young. I at 4 years old, I used to dibble dabble on my father's piano in the basement, or I would always sing at cousins' weddings at 10 years old. And I always loved doing that. And when I was in elementary school in in Brooklyn, PS 212, you know, I was not shy. I was the class clown, always getting in trouble, making sounds, imitating teachers. Um, I used to do like the shows in the school, like the plays we would have once a year. And my music teacher, her name was Alba Meza. Her name was Miss Meza, and she loved me because I always went above and beyond. I always sang. I was like that show stopping thing when I was a little kid. It was I was a goofy kid. And she told me, and I didn't realize this till about 2 years ago. I found a letter that she sent my parents, and I just found this letter 2 years ago, and and she said that I don't know what your son is going to do in the future, but I know he's going to do something musically, whether on the stage, off the stage, behind the mic, or in front of the mic. I know that he's definitely going to do this. She finds out that I'm in broadcast school, okay? And um, she contacts me via a friend. She found out I was in broadcast school when I came out of college, because I was originally going to go into computers, which wasn't going to fly for me. I said, "There's no way I'm going to stay in a room fixing computers for the rest of my life." And I love music, so I went to broadcast school, and while I was in school, which was located in the city on 42nd, Announcer Training Studios, which is no longer there. In my class was Johnny Allen, Sue Simmons from Channel 4, lots and lots of people in the broadcast end that you hear today on the air was in that school. And she finds out I'm in the school. She reaches out to me and says, a friend of mine has a radio station in Minnesota. Would you think of going there? So here I am, this 19-year-old kid. I said, yeah, I'll go. The only thing that I know about Minnesota is watching Mary Tyler Moore with her running through the streets with balloons on her head. Says, this looks like New York. I can get by with this joint, right? So I get on a plane and I fly to Minnesota. So I think I'm going to a city, but I didn't realize I had to get a connecting flight up north. So now I get on this other little prop job, and all I see is snow and trees and snow and trees and more snow. And here it is, the end of March. All right. It's 25 degrees out the end of March. I land in Hibbing, Minnesota, home of Bob Dylan and Roger Maris. And people are walking around with shorts and t-shirts. Meanwhile, I got a coat on because they're used to 50 below zero. And I work for this little radio station called MFG. And here I am, this guy from Brooklyn, trying to talk to these people from 60 miles south of Canada in a Minnesotan accent, and they're not buying this. But I lasted there for 6 months until I couldn't take it anymore. And then I came back to New York, and I got a job in New Jersey, working at WERA in Plainfield, New Jersey. Stayed there for a couple of months. From there, they let me go because they said I wasn't talented enough. So they let
Oh,
me go.
really?
Oh,
No
yeah,
way.
yeah.
Joe's not talented.
I
Wait,
wasn't talented enough.
Joe,
All right.
Joe, you sure it wasn't because you didn't have a Salamonia near you?
Yeah,
The
probably, right?
Italian boy needs at least within X amount of blocks a
Yeah.
Salamonia, right?
So I leave there, and I wound up getting a job, mixing music for Paul Anka in Vegas at his club for a while. I was mixing in a club for a while. Did a little stint there, came back to New York, got a job in Elizabeth, New Jersey at WJDM. And they let me go after, I think I was there for like 8 months. Let me go. And 2 days after they let me go, I got a call from Mark Shoshone, who was the assistant program director at KTU with Michael Ellis, and said, we'd like you to come in. And we heard your tape because I kept sending out tapes, little reel to reel, 5-inch reel to reel tapes, not even cassettes or MP3s. We had to make little cassettes, a little reel to reels, 5-inch jobs. Send it to them. And I went in. They hired me to do overnights, weekends, Saturday nights from 2 to 6 in the morning. Same thing on then I was doing 2 days a week. And then I did overnights for about 3 months. From overnights, they moved me into the morning show. And I wound up doing the morning show for a year and so. I forgot how long that was. And it was a crazy time. I mean, everything was on vinyl. We had a wall of vinyl behind us, but everything was programmed. Michael Ellis was very like, he would be on the phone with record stores, and that's how they programmed the music at KTU. They wanted to know what was selling, and every single Monday he would call record stores. He'd have his interns that worked with him, Frankie Blue at the time. He would be calling the DJs. Hey, what are you playing? What songs are the people liking right now? What are they dancing to? What aren't they dancing to? And that's how he would make his playlist. And that's what he would offer on KTU. And within, I think it was a couple of weeks, they went from a nothing rating to a 12 share. And
That's incredible. That's what everybody
yeah,
said.
that literally that means that every person in New York was listening to this radio station. And still today, there's no one that had ratings like that. Still today, no station comes close into the ratings that KTU had. And it was really crazy. I mean, you can't believe, and it was all because of Saturday Night Fever.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because at the
Yeah.
same time, you just happen to get blessed with a movie coming out,
Right.
explosion,
Mm-hmm.
and your program director finding this music and loving it. It was like a great
Right.
thing to happen at the same time. There's a stereo effect. The movie happened across the nation, and then you guys come on the air, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just like boom.
And we were treated like royalty. I mean, we'd walk into we were located right on 60th and Madison. That's where the original KTU was, right on 60th and Madison. And diagonally across the street from the radio station was the Copacabana, the original Copacabana. And we would walk in that place on a Friday night,
Let me
Saturday night.
Let me show a picture.
Oh, yeah, that's right on
There you go.
that's right on stage at the Copacabana. I mean, that's with Roberto Cano, who was our newsman, and G. Keith Alexander. Super cool dude. Love G. Keith. He's super, super cool dude.
Great voice, that golden voice. G. Keith
Yeah.
used to be on 98.7 Kiss.
Yeah, great guy. Does a lot for the community. He's always out there, and a big voiceover artist too. You hear him on a lot of voiceover spots. Good guy.
So that's because now here you are. You go.
I like that mustache I had. Look like
let's go
I
back.
was in a Swedish erotica video back then. Look at me. And that hair. What the heck is
Wait a
that
minute.
about?
Hold on a second, but let's not forget you wore suits in those days to go out.
Everybody, yeah, back then everybody wore suits when you walked to a club. Nobody walked into clubs today. I mean, you dressed up. that was the whole thing. On Saturday mornings after you washed your car for an hour and a half, you went down to 86th Street and you got your new polyester pants and your Kiana shirt, and you made sure you looked good that night.
That's
And it
right.
was all about dressing up and smelling good. We really stunk bad, but I mean, there's almost, you know, pouring a bottle of Dracar on you when you walked in. You could clear a room. It was crazy. But it was a great time. It was an unbelievable time back then.
And then the thing is, you don't realize you guys are in a goldfish thing. You're doing what you're doing. And out there, we're all listening and just dreaming of what is going on.
Hmm.
You're living the day to day.
Hmm.
How many nights a week were you out?
Uh,
Because you're working, but you got to
yeah,
be, at that time, it was a
yeah,
club on every corner.
right. And they wanted us out at least 3, 4 nights a week. And some of the guys at the station didn't like to do that. They only did special events, like station parties. But
You're
I loved to go out. I was young. I was 20.
WKTU fan.
Yeah, I was 20. I was 20 years old. 21 years old. So I was out every night. So I'd when I was doing the mornings, I'd be out until like 2 o'clock in the morning. You know, come home back to Brooklyn, go to sleep, wake up at 5, and then drive back to the city to be on the air. I mean, I was literally like, I remember like it was yesterday on a Friday morning, getting off the air at 10 o'clock on a Friday morning, going down in the garage, getting my car, driving out to the Hamptons. I would be in the Hamptons by 12:30 in the afternoon. I'd work at a club on Friday night, usually La Plage in the Hamptons on a Friday.
That's
Saturday, I'd work at Le Mans or
Lamont.
Danceteria or 27 East. Sunday, I do the afternoon party back at La Plage on the beach, and then I would sleep over that Sunday night, get out of there at 3 in the morning, and drive back to the city and be on the air at 6. I was nuts back then. There was no. You were never tired. You kept going. There was a lot of things that helped you, but we won't get into that either. You know what I mean?
Coffee, caffeine, Coca-Cola and coffee kept you
Exactly. There were no Starbucks back then. All right.
Coca-Cola kept you going.
Yeah, were there Dunkin' Donuts back then? I think there were.
No, it was, what do you
No?
call it? Chock full of nuts was
Chock
around.
full of nuts? We were chock full of nuts, all right.
Yeah, yeah, you're full of
Yeah.
nuts.
We were nuts, all right. But it was a crazy time, and I remember like it was yesterday,
So
before I
then,
even got on the air, like when I was telling you before I was at ATS,
yep,
Announcer Training Studios, I would they came to the school one day. Remember the record store Jimmy's Music World?
yes.
Okay. And Jimmy's Music World put up a huge record store, the largest record store in New York City, in the middle of Times Square.
Oh, wait a minute. There's a picture, but go ahead.
Yeah, it was 10,000 square feet.
Yep.
And they came to the school and they auditioned everyone in the school, and they wanted 3 people to come in and do a radio show like you were on the air, but in the record store, and play, the new music, talk up the music, and do like an in-store radio show. This is before what you hear when you go to a Walmart today or stuff like that. This was live. They had a DJ booth set up, and we were up in the booth doing all this. And they wound up picking me and these 2 other guys. And I would go there when I would get out at, I get out of school at 4, and then I work in the Jimmy's from like 4 to 8, and then take the train back to Brooklyn, the B train, right? And they would bring in artists. I remember like it was yesterday, Grace Jones coming in, promoting her. She would do like in-store record signings. Grace Jones, The Whispers, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. Silver Convention.
Here we go. Got the picture. There you
I
go.
mean, look at that.
Look at Joe back there behind.
Yeah, look at that. And look at those 12-inch 45s, $2.99.
Two
290 $2.99. It was crazy. And one day, I remember I went there, and overnight they wound up cleaning out the whole store. They just left. They left out of town. and they closed up. The store just closed up overnight. I went in to get my to go to work the next day, and it
Uh-huh.
was gone. The store was gone. And then they wound up making it a club. Remember, it was Bonds.
Yeah, Bonds International.
Well, that's where Bonds was, right there. And it was unbelievable. Ashford and Simpson came in there one time, and they pulled up with a beautiful Rolls Royce convertible. Kids are in the back seat, and they came out, bought some records, double parked the car right in front of Jimmy's Music World in the middle of Times Square. I mean, stuff like that you don't see today. You don't see
Never,
things like that. Yeah,
never.
great times, great times.
But there's the thing. Now, like for example, I mean, you've been around. I'm going to show some pictures. Lionel
Oh boy,
Richie,
here's my wife.
and there's your
Before we
wife,
were married. Before we were married, yeah,
Mrs. Causi. Before Mrs. Causi's Mrs. Causi.
yeah. Lionel Richie,
Al
one of the best.
Rogers,
Yep, yep.
Denny Terrio,
Hmm.
from from Solid Gold, but Denny Terrio. Those that know, Denny Terrio basically trained Travolta to
Yeah,
learn how to dance. That whole scene with him doing those
yeah.
moves on the
And
that's
he's still dancing, Denny. And
crazy,
he
right?
still can
How
do
old
it.
is Denny now? Would you say, Joe?
He has to be hovering between 65 and 70, maybe.
That's what I'm thinking around that age. And he
Yeah.
still goes. He's like a rubber
He
band.
still goes, yeah, and he looks good. He's a good job, I mean, I was with him last year. We did a show in Florida, and he's up there and he's going. Brings the women up on stage and dances with everybody. Yeah.
Now here, when
Ah,
you came to Green Acres in Long Island,
yep.
okay?
Was with Johnny Allen back in the day. And you got to realize we had the Disco Mobile, and it was a brainchild. We would go out and do events everywhere. I mean, if you had let's say you had a grand opening of a store, we'd bring the truck there. They'd set up the turntables outside,
There
and
you
we
are.
were the brainchild of doing these things.
Boom.
And we would do schools. We were out there in people's faces, and that's what I always did. I shook hands, kissed babies, and I still do it today. I try to get out as much as I can, and I'm still doing festivals and feast and
So the
events like
feast. Wait,
that.
wait, wait, wait. The San Gennaro, he made the San Gennaro
There
feast.
you go, Sanzio. They still keep coming out. Look,
Look,
they still keep coming out.
Joe says, I'm going to be at the feast. I'm going to get my Zeppelis and all my salsiccia peppers. And
Yeah.
he says it every year.
And you know what's funny? I go to the feast and I never eat that stuff. I can't eat it. I just go. I just no. I got to be correct. I just go to one place and I eat all the time. Well, two places. I go get my shrimp balls at Vincent's
Right.
on Mott and Hester. Then I go around the corner and I get my cannolis from Cafe Palermo, and then I'm good. And then I go home, and that's the end of the night. But I do the first Saturday of the feast every year, and I was just Grand Marshal there a couple of years ago. They made me Grand Marshal, me and Chaz Palmentieri from Bronx Tale. And I just love going back there each and every year. It's part of, I remember like it was yesterday when we all went there from KTU. All of us were on a large gondola float. It was a float in the shape of a gondola. And we came up the Mulberry Street, and we were all on there. Me, Paco, Johnny Allen, Diane Pryor, all of us. And it was such a feeling. People were so responsive, and we gave out over 50,000 T-shirts that day coming up Mulberry Street. Everybody and their mother had a KTU T-shirt on.
Joe, correct me if I'm wrong. If I remember, I went to the 18th Avenue feast, and I remember
Mhm.
security. I remember that you were in that kind of level that you had to have security around you.
Yeah,
Because,
but I always went
you
down
know,
with the
because,
people. I
because,
always went down with the people.
because people wanted to get near you. They loved you.
Yeah, yeah, and people would never do anything because they know I'm one of them.
You're a neighborhood guy.
Yeah, I'm a neighborhood guy. I'm not like that. And I've never been like that. I'm a regular person, and that's why I want to be treated like that too.
Okay,
Yeah.
so now, how long did KTU and you staying with Carlos and all them? Because Carlos De Jesus eventually became program director.
Right. Well,
Uh,
we were all done. The station was done by like 1985.
that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
How long did that whole so people understand the rise and the demise of what
Right. It was only a short span. It was only about 7 years. And then that was it, because the music was changing, that whole disco sucks revolution came on, and there was that new wave. The music went from dance music really to new wave, and the music kept evolving. So, and that was really the end of KTU, but people still wanted to hear it. And they realized that later on. And then when the stations came back, when the new KTU came back, they knew and went right to number one. People want to dance. I mean, you can listen to music and you can dance to music. And people want to dance.
So now
Yeah.
we were hearing your voice all those years, and then all of a sudden, now we don't hear your voice for a while.
Right.
So what happens to you in that span? Because we knew you came back.
Right.
But those years, where did you go in the middle of all that?
I was just I would do anything really to support my family. I just got married. I literally got married in 85. The same year was the demise of KTU. So I was out there doing events, doing promotions, stuff like that. I worked in a funeral home for a while. You got to do what you got to do.
Well, this is why people want to know this stuff, because they think it's all glamour.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. And there was a time when, I was doing 2-3 jobs just to be afloat, because it's not always going to be like that, and when you're 20 years old and you're working at the number one radio station in the world and you're making decent money. I mean, I would go out at 19 years old in 1980 and buy a $150 pair of shoes. In 1980, compared to today, that's like $500.
I was gonna say like $650.
Exactly.
You're just with Ferrucci. You're just heavy level.
Exactly. So in 1980, you think, oh, this is going to be like this forever. It ain't like that, because I was young in mind, and you think it's going to be like that for the rest of your life. And when you get older, you realize, you have to put away for that rainy day. And that's, that's what happened. That's what happened. So thank God, then I got right back into it, with the new KTU. And then with Mix 102.7, I've been with CBS. It's going to be 15 years now.
Oh, God bless you. 15 years. And that's another story. See, here's the funny part, everybody, about CBS 101, the oldie station.
Right.
With Cousin Brucey and them. So they were going forever and ever and ever and ever. We used to hear the records of the 50s and the 60s.
Right.
The 70s. And when they were on the air, it was more 50s, 60s.
70s. That was it. Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, CBS decides to axe 101 FM. People lost it, right? You remember this? And then they put this thing on called Talk FM or some nonsense. Changed the whole
Jack FM.
Jack FM.
Right.
People wrote letters like you have no idea, emails for about a year. Which is never heard of, to bring a station back.
Right.
That way. They bring back 101, but now they get rid of Brucey, all them, and they call on Broadway Bill Lee, Joe Causi. Yep, Joe Causi got a job, and we start to hear Joe Causi again. Well, we heard Joe before. He was on Hot.
Right, I was on 1027 WNEW.
Yep.
Yeah. And when I left 1027, then I went over to CBS FM. And I mean, we just got our ratings yesterday for the last book. And at night, I'm the number 2 listened to radio station in New York in the tri-state area. I mean, that's a lot of people out there, It's a lot of people.
So what is that Arbitron rating referred to in people, if you were to say numbers? Like
I don't even
millions
know.
of people listening?
Yeah. Millions. Yeah. Yeah. You got to realize it's a tri-state area, and it's different today, like a lot of people there's different back then with KTU. When you wanted to hear your favorite song, you had to sit there and listen to it. You didn't have your Spotify and your iPods and your iPhones and where you can just dial up and hear your song anytime. Back then. You had to wait. Today, there's so many different ways to get your music, and I thank God that
Joe's right there telling you here's your music.
That's right.
Turntable right behind him. Look.
And the slip mat right behind me there.
There you go.
A little slip mat over there, yeah. And see those little carts there
Right?
on the side? Those
Yeah.
little carts? Those were our commercials. Those were every commercial was on one of those carts compared to today where everything's computerized.
So it'd be almost similar. So people understand this at home. Remember, everybody had an 8-track. Everybody
Right.
like an
Well,
8-track. You put
right.
the 8-track in and click the number, and
Well, it
boom.
was a 4-track. It was a 4-track. It was just that one little track on there. There was like 4 different commercials on one tape. You know, for the techie guys out there, that's what, they wanna know. But it was a magical time back then, you know?
Look
And
at
I was
this.
glad I'm a part of it, really.
Look how magical.
That was that was at the World Trade Center, the original World Trade Center, and every single once a week on a Friday afternoon, we would do the KTU lunch break, and we would go out either to the World Trade Center or to Pier 11 by the South Street Seaport and put on concerts. We would have an artist come down, and great story.
Please search for part 2 of this podcast on the platform you're watching or listening to. And please do not forget to follow us.